You know, have you ever really thought about how your applications remember things? Not the data you put in, but the little settings they need just to work properly. Today, we're going to explore a really simple but super powerful idea, giving our code a memory so we don't have to carve all its instructions in stone. Think about it. When you get a new phone, what's one of the first things you do? You connect it to your Wi-Fi, right? You type in that password just one time, and that's it. The phone just knows it from then on. What if our code could have that same kind of memory? Well, that's exactly what we're going to look at, how we can give our web apps a special kind of memory for all those crucial settings, things like database connections, API keys, you name it. It's all about making our code way smarter and a whole lot easier to work with. But to really get why this is so important, we first have to talk about the opposite. We need to look at the common and kind of messy alternative called hard coding. So what on earth is hard coding? Well, take a look at this. This is a pretty standard line of code for connecting to a database. See how everything, the database type, the server location, the username Weber, and oh boy, even the password PWD, it's all written right there. In the code, it's kind of like gluing the key to your house permanently into the lock. Sure, it works. For a little while. But then, what happens when that password needs to change for security reasons? Or what if you need to move the whole application from your test computer to the real live server? You'd have to actually go find this exact line of code, change it by hand, and then rebuild and redeploy the entire thing. It's not great. And that really gets to the heart of the problem. First, it's just not flexible at all. Second, it is super insecure. You never, ever want passwords just sitting there in plain text for anyone with access to the code to see. And finally, it's a nightmare to manage. Just imagine that same database info is copied and pasted in 10 different files. You change one, you have to remember to change all the others. There has to be a better way, right? And of course there is. So let's look at our first solution. I want you to think of this as giving a small part of our application its own little personal sticky note. Now, in the Java web world, this sticky note has a real name. It's called a servlet config object. And here's the key thing. The server that runs your code creates a totally separate, unique servlet config for every single servlet in your app. It's like a private memo, just for that one part of the code. And this visual just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the idea, a private little note. And on the right, that's what it actually looks like. In a special settings file called web.xml, you tuck this little init param right inside the definition for one specific servlet. Here, we're setting a max amount to 500, and only this servlet has easy access to this note. So how does the servlet read its own private sticky note? It's beautifully simple. The code basically just asks, hey, what's the value for max amount? And it gets the answer. No hard coding needed. Okay, that's cool. A personal sticky note is great for one component. But what if you have information that every single part of your application needs to know? Well, for that, we need to upgrade. We're going from a sticky note to a big, shared bulletin board. This bulletin board is called the server context. And unlike the sticky note, the server only creates one of these for your entire application. It's a global, shared space where you can post information that anybody, any servlet, any page, any part of your app might need to see. And here's how that looks. On the left, it's a public notice for everyone. And on the right, look at the code. See the difference? This context param tag isn't inside a specific servlet. It's out in the main web app tag. That's how we signal that this piece of info, like a database driver name, is for public use. It's posted right on the main board for all to see. So what have we really been doing this whole time? Whether it's a sticky note or a bulletin board, it all comes down to one of the most important principles in software design, separating your code from your configuration. This table just sums it all up beautifully. Our shared bulletin board, that's the context parameter, is for everyone. Our personal sticky note, the servlet parameter, is just for one. The whole game is just about picking the right tool for the job. Do you need to whisper or do you need to shout? And this right here, this is the whole point. When we pull these settings out of our code and put them in a dedicated file, we achieve this separation. And what do we get? Our app becomes flexible. We can change a password without touching the code. It's more secure. And it becomes so much easier to manage. So I'll just leave you with this little thought. We've just looked at one specific way to do this, but it points to a much bigger way of thinking, What if we tried to build all of our code with this kind of flexibility in mind? It's a simple idea, but honestly, it's the foundation for software that can actually last and adapt to change. Thanks for hanging out with me.